Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, so did some steps ahead of time, and I'm not so sure how much power the camera is on. I thought my memory always keeps on telling me I recharged my camera when clearly it doesn't seem to be the case. So the plus side is that we managed to get like a longer cable, so hopefully there's no interference. But the downside is there's no dummy battery for this thing, so not so sure how long we can keep the visuals on for, so we're probably gonna have to make this as quick as possible. Basically what I did so far is that we made our stations, managed to combine a bit of, the thing is with Korean fried chicken is that you need to have your flour actually be like a half and half ratio of gluten-free flour and gluten flour. And that's actually the secret to any kind of fried chicken, because that's how it would be. Because if you just use the gluten-free flour alone, you're just gonna have like a really inedible skin. You can try to break your teeth with the skin, but that's not how it's gonna work. If you just give it a mix of gluten flour and just gluten-free flour with some baking powder, that's how we make it here. However, here I took some of the flour mixture and put it here for the dredging like tempura station, which I'm going to be adding some liquid components into in a bit. Here we got the chicken that was been marinated overnight, and for the pineapple rolls, we had pineapple marinating and brown sugar overnight. And of course we had the shells that we left down on the counter that we're going to be wrapping it up in, and we're going to be using the trusty air fryer to make things happen and make things snappy. So let's see how we do for this first time around. It's going to be an experimental recipe. I will probably be returning to this recipe sometime in the near future. It's all experimental, as a lot of people have different quantities of directions, different proportions of directions, different temperatures. So we'll see what happens and hopefully pray for the best. We got our air fryer tray over here, so I'm going to be leaving this over here so that way when I use the tongs I can just safely put the chicken in the air fryer bin. And to the tempura mixture, going to be adding in some beer, because apparently beer battered fried food is actually kind of trendy, not gonna lie. They have like beer battered fried fish over in the UK, so that's something I'm just experimenting and trying with. So we're going to be doing about like a half a cup of beer. The other liquid component I'm adding is a little bit of this buttermilk marinade mixture that I made last night for the chicken. So for now we're going to take the chicken wings that we got marinated overnight, put them in the flour mixture. So you want to get them nice and evenly coated. I'm just carefully using my fork here just so I don't have to exactly dirty my hands. And if this stream isn't completely successful due to my technical mishap, then we can always redo this one later when I have like a different setup in the future for this specific recipe. So we're going to be taking half a cup of this, adding this into the mixture over here. That's half a cup, because we have a full cup of the flour mixture added into the tempura like that, and then we're going to add in some beer. Since the tempura mixture over here is a 1-to-1 ratio, it should come out evenly. Most of the dredging station stuff for this is a 1-to-1 ratio, so everything should be combining smoothly. And as I said, this is mostly an experimental recipe. Even if I don't get complete footage and I have to replace my camera, as long as the recipes are successful, we should be fine. And if I do need to get the camera replaced, y'all are gonna have to bear with me for a few minutes or so. Okay, so this is what the mixture looks like right now, and it's just right around the consistency I'm looking for, kind of like a pancake batter in a way. And in all fairness, the flour I use, the gluten flour that I use is mostly, it was mostly a Korean pancake flour anyways, but it's just pretty much seasoned flour for making pancakes anyways, for the most part. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have the wings be in the dry mixture, then we're going to have them be dredged in the wet mixture, and then we're gonna throw them right into the bin. Of course, don't forget to spray things down with some oil to prevent stickage. We're also going to be spraying some oil on top of the wings. That's part of the process. I'm going to be wearing a couple of gloves just so we can keep things a bit sanitary, but also at the same time, when you're making fried or breaded anything, things are just bound to get messy regardless. So we're gonna take this, shake some of the excess flour off, then we're gonna dunk it here. As I said, this is a very messy process. So here's what the first batch is going to do. We're going to actually have the first batch be 1-to-1. So dip it in the flour mixture once, and then we're going to get the and then we're going to be putting in the tempura mixture, and then we're going to place it in there, and then we're also make sure to also spray the top of your chicken. As for any breading, frying mixture, just always have a dry hand and then always have a wet hand, because as you can see, my wet hand is just very, very, very fragile right now with this tempura mixture we got going on over here. place this down in here. Because apparently this glove is just not friendly with stickage.
Spaghetti. Ravioli. Mamma mia.
So we're gonna do 4 wings at a time, and a lot of recipes have varying temperatures of how long to cook the wings for, and it ranges from between like 370 degrees in the air fryer versus 390 degrees at most. We're gonna experiment with the temperature and see. I'm gonna set it at 370 for now and see how we do. Alright, so here's how they look so far. We're gonna stick them in the air fryer. I'm gonna be testing the temperature out, and hopefully we get the right temperature to get these evenly cooked. So we're gonna give those 10 minutes while I go ahead and dredge and bread the second batch. And for half of the wings, we're gonna actually be making our own sauce, our own sticky sauce for them because, well, if it's Korean fried chicken, we have to have some kind of sauce for that, right? And for the sauce, there's no accurate real measurements. I'm just going to be going loosely based off of common ingredients I see in a lot of these fried chicken sauces and a bunch of other recipes. I just realized sauces is one of the words that the accent will pop out in. So keep that in mind, folks. Some of the vowels that we say in New York are just pretty pronounced. All right, that's going to be all of our protein. Because of the situation, this probably might be one of my faster cooking sessions. But again, if we weren't 100% successful right now, I can always revisit this recipe in the future anyways. So what I'm gonna do is have a separate vessel so that way we can, we have the lid to our thing. And then afterwards, we're gonna leave them on here so that way I can move on to getting the pineapple rolls, which are Filipino inspired, after that immediately. Because we need to be on a roll here. We have to, time is ticking with this camera. Just remember, folks, at the end of the day, everybody makes mistakes. As long as we learn from them. Also, if the music is not loud enough, I think the music has been playing at different volumes, guys. Although I think we should be fine for the most part. All right, so I think we have the flour portion evenly dredged. So this looks okay. What I do like about chicken wings is that they're really good for any serving. If you want it as part of a meal, they're the right size. If you want it as an appetizer, they're the right size. If you want it as a snack, even especially after school, this is the right size. And of course, the best results for this kind of recipe is just to naturally deep fry them. But because we're experimenting with air fryer to see how well the air fryer can actually take this kind of process, this batter, that's what we're doing. Yep, that is definitely correct, Kiba. That is definitely correct. And depending on like what market you're purchasing your wings from, sometimes they don't have it perfectly cut like that. Sometimes they have it sometimes they have like the whole chicken wing whole, so you still have to butcher them yourself. A tip that I've learned on YouTube from a lot of meat chefs is that it's usually more affordable and cheaper to actually get a whole piece of meat and cut it yourself. And apparently the camera game. Alright, hold on. Give me 1 second, folks. Nothing new happening yet, but I just need to go ahead and switch real quick.
I fell into darkness, and I couldn't find the light.
meantime, let's go into the Stream Raiders battlefield to see how we're looking in the meantime. Okay, I think we're good. So it's been 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and see how our first batch is looking. Well, it looks like they're puffing up. That's the kind of result we're looking for, actually. We're gonna let these go for like several more minutes, then I'm gonna flip them over and make sure they're done on the other side. So far we're using 370 degrees in the air fryer. I'm not gonna turn the camera around to completely show the air fryer because it was tedious enough to switch out the camera. But point being right now is that we want to make sure that this is well cooked enough, and then we'll go ahead and take the time to turn these over and make sure they're done on the other side. And because we used a great enough amount of oil, we should be able to get enough color on this. I'm going to raise the temperature a little bit and see if they will actually go faster at around 390. So another thing, the reason why I'm not actually taking going to make the fried chicken sauce right now is because it's going to be a heavily sugar-based sauce. So if we let the sauce sit out at room temperature for way too long, it's just going to harden and just essentially become like sweet and spicy candy, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that the sauce is at the right temperature, it's runny enough, and once it cools down, it will be enough to actually stick to the wings and get them nice and sticky and whatnot without having to turn into candy at first. So we're going to be saving the sauce for last, and that's what the game plan is. And thank you, Kiba, thank you. There would be like some kind of smudge on the camera that would be visible because of one component of this camera that got kind of damaged, but as long as we don't see it, we should be okay. Also, pardon the lighting situation, this is the best that we can work with right now. I'm gonna grab an extra tiny plate so we can fit the extra wing over here for the next batch to be prepared later. Actually, if anybody is in the chat, how often do you guys eat wings? I personally don't eat wings often, and I just recently learned of how you can actually properly remove the bones from the wings, and most other people would take the wings and they would take the wings and they would just munch off the bone. But you can remove the wings if you like twist and turn the wing enough in order to actually remove the bones cleanly that way. And as long as the chicken inside is cooked thoroughly, you're gonna get like a lot of meat out of it. You could just eat it in one bite. Alright, so after one more minute at 390 degrees, I'm gonna check on the wings again, show you guys how they look. For now, we're just gonna put our stations aside. So that way we can make room for the next star of the show, our pineapple. Alright, there's some nasty tidbits we can just get rid of here. Alright, so this is how they look right now. I'm not sure if the full camera can fully show it. They have decent color on them. I'm gonna remove some of the nasty tidbits here, flip them over. And after I flip them over, we should be able to get them nice and fully cooked and ready. I will admit, it does smell really flavorful though in this thing. There's some skin I could be able to try up. Because if you leave the nasty tidbits in the air fryer tray, you would end up having like a really burnt smell. Oh, that's a really good batter. I'm gonna try this for myself and see how the batter tastes. Kind of gummy, because this is not a fully cooked batter, but flavor is right there. Alright, the next step we're gonna do. So it looks like the first method of heating the chicken at a lower temperature is probably gonna have the chicken well cooked already. So now we need to make sure that the skin outside is cooked as well. So we're gonna spray the undersides down to make sure these undersides get a bit of color as well, so that way they can actually heat up evenly. And afterwards, let's go ahead and get that Stream Raiders battle done so we can move on to the next one. And then afterwards, I'm gonna be working on those pineapple rolls. Okay, so while Kiba decides whatever the heck he wants, so this is how they turned out so far. We're just on the skin was just on the cusp of being almost way too charged for anybody's liking, so I just took them out for what they are right now. The crispy bits on the end that are crispy are just at the right color, the right temperature. This looks like the right color, however, there's still a pretty good chance that I may need to tweak this recipe a lot more. Especially since I know this recipe is going to be guaranteed to work 100% if you deep fry it. But I always want to like test out the capabilities of an air fryer to make sure that maybe it has an equal amount of potential to be just as good as just deep frying an original recipe, you know? We're also going to be replacing the aluminum foil for like one more time after this next batch goes out. And then doing that, we could go ahead and get to the pineapple rolls, and then we could go ahead and get the sauce going for the chicken. Again, this is a very experimental recipe. Otherwise, how's everybody else doing on this Sunday? I believe it's also the Memorial Day weekend too. Alright, so these rolls. What I want to make sure to do here is, since there's still plenty of moisture in the pineapple, let's try to reduce the amount of moisture we have and make sure we actually like not have too much moisture in the wrapper, so that way it doesn't exactly like leak and like it doesn't exactly leak and ruin the wrapper when it's being heated up in the air fryer. Oh yeah, also savor pineapple juices. Pineapple has a really good enzyme to actually break down meat and tenderize it. You may see some YouTube videos where they do crazy experiments of like tenderizing, marinating with different types of fruits because some enzymes of specific fruit, but not as popular as pineapple, or in Korea's case, they would use the melon actually. Whenever they do the Korean barbecue, they would actually throw that in the marinade, and that the enzymes of that fruit would help to break down and tenderize the beef as well. What did the onion salesman say to the captain? What did he say? Oh, goodness sakes. Oh, Kiba, you have not selected your reward yet. We were waiting for you to decide if you want the bomber or the barbarian. You left till the day end hangings, Kiba. Just be wary next time, Kiva. When it's just me, you, and somebody else, there's 2 rewards. Definitely know which one you want to choose. How's it going till the day ends? I see you've been a long time player on Twitch, but not Stream Raiders, because Stream Raiders I'm pretty sure came out after you made your account. Oh, okay, that's understandable. We don't want to remove too much moisture, but at the same time, I want to make sure that they're dry enough. Oh, this is very sweet. Okay, it's been a few minutes. Let's go ahead and see how our second batch of chicken is doing. We'll give it a few more minutes, and then afterwards we'll crank the temperature up, make sure the skin on the outside is cooked on both sides, because apparently it's a bit finicky to make sure the chicken is done. But yeah, till the day ends, not everybody is going to be actively around on Stream Raiders. I know you're lurking and stuff, but if somebody's doing something in real life, they're doing something in real life. I mean, if you're not at your computer or your phone, you got stuff to do in real life too. Like here we are in the kitchen right now making some amazing food for Asian American Pacific Islander Month. Nobody actually stays around at their workstation forever, you know. But I know a lot of people are privy to their life, and that's fine too. I can totally understand. But at the same time, I definitely would appreciate it if someone would actually be upfront to me about that and let me know that they're just dealing with stuff outside of Twitch or whatever. And that's a perfectly okay response. I'm not incredibly judgmental on that. How did the testing go last night? It was okay. We only had like one performance drop during DGen hours. Otherwise, everything else was pretty okay. We had quality. Oh, actually, speaking of which, do we have quality options today? I can't tell right now, but I hope we do. If not, then that's Twitch's thing. Because we used to have like quality option was more and more often. I don't know why we don't have quality options right now. The pineapples don't have to be perfectly perfectly dry, but just as long as you remove like some more bits of moisture out, then you should be okay. There's pros and cons with working with chopped pineapple, but also at the same time, there are times where it's okay to use frozen or packaged produce. Peas are a pretty good example of a packaged produce you can actually get more easily, because the amount of labor you need to do in order to actually remove peas from their shells is ridiculous. Plus, keeping peas frozen is actually a great way to preserve them, to preserve their freshness and whatnot. And I know a lot of people say that, oh, it's a lot more affordable to prepare your own meat, to prepare your own produce, but if it's way too labor intensive, as Ina Garten says, store-bought is just fine. But also at the same time, if you want to get something that's store-bought, make sure you have a pretty good deal on it. Because I am a person who is a sucker for discounts and coupons. Right now I'm just taking the time to make sure that I remove as much moisture as possible from the pineapple before we work with them for the pineapple rolls. Some recipes are just labor intensive, but the amount of work and the time and effort you put into some really good recipes are definitely well worth it. I believe I have pretty good faith in these pineapple rolls turning out well. So the reason why I say like these pineapple rolls are Filipino inspired is because they are actually, I draw inspiration from them from a Filipino dessert snack called a turon. A turon is basically like the same thing as a makey. They usually use a banana though. I think some recipes call for pineapple. And their skin for a turon is typically more akin to what you would consider a homemade tortilla from making burritos or enchiladas or tacos, but more along the lines of a almost like akin to a homemade tortilla shell. But because it's a lot more convenient to work with the spring roll shells for a lot of multi-purpose rolls, that's what we're doing right now. And I've also had its inspiration from a restaurant that I used to get takeout at when I used to live in a different neighborhood in New Jersey. And they would have these pineapple rolls as a kind of appetizer slash snack slash dessert you could have before or after a meal. Also looks kind of funny right now that looks like I'm giving this pig cutting board a pineapple facial treatment. It's 25 bucks on Steam? I'm still low-key kind of interested, but not exactly way too interested in Dragon Quest right now. Alright, so right now we just have to make sure to replace the aluminum foil one final time. Because the last thing we want to do are more charcoal bits when we're frying something new in the air fryer, just as a safety protocol. So we're still going to have to be working on this recipe because while the color looks right, the skin is just really uneven. The frying process is just really a little bit more technically complicated with an air fryer. If you're deep frying, then of course this is a surefire win recipe. For now, let's divide half of these up so we can actually coat half of them in a sauce. That way with the sauce it will be kind of decent looking for the most part. So we're not going to be making too much sauce considering we're only coating 4 wings, so we're going to be using our trusty old, well, this is your typical tamago pan, but you can also use this if you want to make a small quantity of whatever you want to actually make on the stovetop. Let me just rotate the camera around a little bit. So in order to prevent the sugar from burning, because we're going to be adding considerable amount of sugar to the sauce mixture, we're going to be heating the sauce in medium-low heat. I know a lot of temperatures would, a lot of recipes will love to call for like medium-high heat or medium heat. But to prevent any burnage, of course, let's keep things nice and cool and at the right place with medium-low heat. So into the sauce mixture, we're going to be adding a signature ingredient, which is the chili paste, the fermented chili paste, the typical gochujang, and there's a lot of different purposes you can use this chili paste for, and it really adds a nice level of zesty, rustic, tangy spiciness to your dishes. I personally find it a little bit on the mild side in terms of spiciness, but of course, adjust your spice preference according to as needed. So we're going to be adding a half a tablespoon of this. You can use 1 tablespoon if you like it a little bit more. I exactly have like 1 tablespoon right here. Apparently, due to how sticky this thing is, it was a little bit more difficult in order to get it out, but just about enough is fine. To this, we're going to be adding some rice cooking wine. Some honey. We're going to be making this a little bit more sweet than spicy. And one thing that's for sure for the most part is that you can always adjust according to your own liking for the sauce. Add a little bit of. We're gonna add some ketchup for a little bit of for some tang, because that's the ketchup can provide some acidity. And we're also gonna throw some garlic in there. And keep in mind that you're dealing with some very strong flavors when you're mixing this sauce, so not only do you keep an eye on your heat, but keep an eye on the quantity of ingredients as well. And of course, it couldn't be an Asian sauce without some kind of soy sauce in it, so let's add some soy sauce as well. And last but not least, let's also not forget to add in some brown sugar, which I conveniently have right here. Oh, and also the Korean red chili flakes. If you like Italian chili flakes, these are definitely a lot more mild to people's liking, but this still works well pretty too for a lot of recipes. So we got most of the sugar components worked in. Right now, I'm just making sure that the chili paste is actually broken down and melded into the sauce. Then we're gonna finish it off with the Korean red chili flakes, and then that'll be our sauce. It's also multi-purpose sauce as well. So if you don't want to like throw it on some fried chicken, you can also throw it on some of your other favorite proteins or vegetables. Also, what's up, Alhart? Always remember to taste for seasoning, in case if it's too sweet or not spicy enough. I think this sauce is just right, honestly. Has a really nice kick to it. So this is what the sauce looks like. I don't know if you guys can completely see it, but this is kind of the consistency we're looking for. It's runny for now, but once you let it come to room temperature, it will become stickier and stickier. Like, since we added honey and stuff. If you don't have honey, usually you would use rice syrup, some kind of corn syrup, some kind of syrup in order to give it the consistency you want this to be. Let me make sure we turn the camera around so that way I can show you guys how it looks when we're coating. So these are the wings we're going to be coating for now, and it definitely will look a lot better with this colorful sauce. Get a trusty spatula if the tiny spoon doesn't get the job done, of course. Also, happy Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Alharts. Even if you're not Asian, I'm still wishing you a happy that month. This month is also Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'm probably going to do some mental health relaxing games for tomorrow, hopefully. Hopefully. Alright, so I think this should be enough sauce to go around. Since we only have like 4 wings in here anyways. Once we finish tossing the wings in this sauce, we're going to go ahead and give them a toss. Oh, that actually rhymes. Toss in the sauce. That's how you get the buffalo wings and your other favorite wings covered and whatnot. You can't go wrong with the the sweet, sticky, spicy, and somewhat salty Korean fried chicken sauce, you know? So that's how they look when you get them covered up and whatnot. I think I made the right amount. So I'm just gonna top them up with some sesame seeds, and that will be these covered wings for the sauce. Honestly, for some dishes, if you like cover them with the sauce, it can hide some pieces of ugliness. Um, yeah, there's gonna be sometimes there are cases where you want to make a plate look presentable and whatnot, but if you actually decorate it nicely with the sauce can really hide some really good imperfections. That's actually a secret technique the chefs get you at a restaurant. If like the meat they serve you is pretty mediocre at like a sports bar or something, they just cover it up with a really good sauce, and your brain immediately gets bamboozled and fooled into thinking the supposed dish that you're eating is good when in reality, it's literally it's literally just the sauce. That's how they get you. And I kind of hate that about like some sports bar foods, not gonna lie. Well, this is pretty much just about final. Most glazed chicken you would see looks like this anyways. Next time I screw up burgers, I'm gonna just slather it on AI. You can't go wrong with AI, honestly. This is the what these wings look like plain, because the skin is just way too inconsistent right now. But presentation wise, I definitely prefer like what these look like a lot better. For the most part. After we finish our next Stream Raiders battle, I'm gonna get to work on those pineapple rolls. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and begin that right now. Plus, I need to rehydrate anyways. Also, for some reason, the music was paused. If there was no music in the background, definitely let me know, guys, because it was paused for a long time and nobody told me there was no music playing for some reason.
was easy.
Okay, let me see. I think we're good now. Alright, let's go ahead and get these started. I have a little bit more faith in this recipe. Actually, what you could also do is actually crack an egg for sealing, but also at the same time you can also put the egg as a coating. This is actually another recipe you can use an egg wash for. I know a lot of you guys are lurking, but always make sure that if there's no background music, do let me know. Because it was pretty weird. I thought like there was some background music playing, but for some reason, sometimes YouTube just pauses on its own. For like, I don't know how long that happened, for like maybe a good 10 or so minutes. Alright, so we're gonna put some pineapple here. It's called the Chill Cow playlist. It's the it's a Nintendo playlist that I have selected, a Nintendo Lo-Fi playlist. Also, how's your life been, Owl Hearts? Have you been doing well? Has life been working out for you? Everything's been going good over here. How about you? I'm just hanging in there. Everybody's been hanging in there over here. Things are slightly improving where I live. Although, when it comes to New York, it's very divisive, considering there's New York City, there's New York State, and there's Long Island. If you ever have any leftover pineapple from whatever you're doing in this recipe, you can always use the leftover pineapple to make, I don't know, pineapple cake. Or another great idea is pineapple fritters. Nothing else, you can always make a fried stuff, a fritter out of something. Have I made a... Oh, I have not made that abomination. I have not. I know what it is, though. Okay, so these are how they look for right now, and these should be... You can only fit probably just about 3 in here for the meantime. So we're going to get these air fried, and one thing to note is that when you get these kind of wrappers, they will always have the directions in the back. So on this package right here, it says that normal deep frying would be at 350 degrees for 3 to 4 minutes. And it's pretty experimental too, so let's go ahead and see if 350 degrees is good enough for the air fryer, which knowing the air fryer, I have pretty good hopes and faith that it will be able to heat up appropriately with any amount of temperature that we did. After all, the most successful air fryer recipe I've done so far is the lava cake, so let's go ahead and give it a go. The first 3 rolls are going to be like skinny rolls, and then a couple of other rolled out ones here already. We're just going to do one more, and good thing we have like a lot of skin left for whatever else we need to do. You don't have to just make rolls with the spring roll skin as well. You can always make your favorite. Well, then again, wonton wrappers are specifically for wonton. Oh yeah, no problem, Owl Hearts. Thanks for stopping by, I appreciate it. Progress in the current rolls is that they got some color on one side. I just flipped them over so they can actually get some color on both sides. But otherwise, they should be looking pretty good and would be really amazing to serve with ice cream. So these are the wings we made earlier, and I don't know if the camera will be in focus because this camera I know has a hard time focusing. And if you're gonna eat a saucy wing, be sure to always, but because I don't have much gloves at the moment, I'm gonna go ahead and dig into one of them anyways. So the thing is with taking the bone out of wings is that if you give it a nice twist and turn, you should be able to get the bone to shimmy right out. If not cleanly, then adequately enough. Not some meat off, but... pretty nice and juicy, at least. The reason why you're twisting and turning is because you want to remove the bone from the original socket was from. If it's not entirely clean, you can always pick the meat off. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube just using the twist and turn, and depending on the wing you prepared or the wing a restaurant prepares, it can either work easily or you might have a bit of trouble with it. So this method doesn't work all the time on chicken wings, but you can always make sure to try and be sure to see if it works or not for you. By the least of it, you're gonna get like most of the meat off. And what you have left over is an actual boneless wing. This is an actual boneless wing, not a boneless wing, because boneless wing, as some other people say, are basically glorified chicken nuggets. This is not a glorified chicken nugget. First of all, this is very sticky. Be careful when you're eating this. Second of all, that has a huge hit of flavor. Definitely a lot more flavor than I imagined. There's a level of spice on this, on the sweet chili paste, but feels just about right. And with the plain wings, of course, you're just gonna have the same result, so you're gonna need some sauce no matter what. I just wanted to taste this one to see how because it was my first time making Korean fried chicken sauce. Lo and behold, folks, looks like our first rolls look just about done. What really helps is if you actually, an egg wash when you're, ooh, I like the color on this. An egg wash when you're frying or baking really helps to add a really great amount of color to whatever you're heating up. As you guys can see, we have some golden brown deliciousness over here, and on the back side, it's pretty cohesive too. It's not bad, actually. It's not bad. So we're gonna remove this for now, and because of how clean this aluminum foil is, well, actually, I still need to clean this up a little bit, so I remove the tidbits, so we don't have any burnt nasties when we heat this up again. We're gonna go ahead and egg wash the last 3 rolls. It's also kind of funny how I sort of have a vague idea on how to roll up stuff, because before I worked with these wrappers, I've used burrito wrappers, taco shell wrappers, to wrap things up before anything else. Yeah, exactly, Kiba. Pre-sauce chicken nuggets is more like it. I'll spray a little bit more oil on here, just to make sure that we don't have any. We want to minimize the stickage as best as possible. Because remember, when you're removing something that is fried from the vessel, it's going to carry some of the heated oil with it. So this triangle ceiling side up is a really good spot to apply the egg wash. Let me just remove the spray, because it really helps to add in the extra stickage, the extra adhesiveness, in order to make sure the shell doesn't completely pop. Oh, if you have a crack in the shell, that's okay, as long as you like coat it with the egg wash. And because right now this looks incredibly presentable, and it's fine. At the end of the day, the flavor is what matters too. For the last 3 rolls, I'm going to add a teensy bit more egg wash, because on the first 3 rolls, we only added like 1 layer of egg wash. But we're going to need a lot of egg wash in these rolls anyways, because a couple of them kind of cracked. But as long as they held together when they're being heated up, then we're fine. 350, I would say, is probably good enough temperature. 3 minutes on one side and 3 minutes on the other side, and you should be done for the most part if you don't want to get these rolls burnt. And as always, do handle with care, because these are very fragile pieces of shell. Oh yeah, no problem, Kiva. And yes, Joker, I am. Sometimes on a Sunday, I normally would. Today is a Asian American Pacific Islander special where I'm doing some... the last thing we're doing right now is some pineapple rolls, Filipino inspired. And as I've stated before, the original turong recipe is... The skin is more akin to the lines of a homemade tortilla shell rather than a very thin spring roll wrapper. Okay, since I had a piece of fried chicken, if you want to be really Korean, just have some beer with some fried chicken. More restaurants will be serving pre-dipped chicken nuggets because they'll make a better profit of their because the chicken just has 2 wings. That's very true. That is very true. All restaurants have to make a profit somehow, especially if they want to maximize whatever assets they have. Sometimes cutting corners and whatnot, and rebranding some pieces of food, which is still ridiculous, but it is what it is in order to make money. Because you have to think about it in terms of, well, how are they going to allocate all that money that they get from the customers? You have to factor in people's paychecks, you have to factor in the rent of the building, you have to factor in maintenance for your equipment, you have to factor in the money that you need in order to restock your items, etc., etc., etc. I always, it's Asian American Pacific Islander month, Joker, and I thought to do some recipes that are very Asian American inspired. And also, sometimes, some Sundays I do cooking streams. Sundays are days where I decide to hop in the kitchen and cook. Today is actually one of those days. Alright, so 1 more minute and I'm gonna actually flip the second batch of rolls around in the air fryer. If I'm confident enough to actually know the recipe that I'm making for the air fryer, then I would usually turn the camera around. But, you guys saw the tray anyway, so you guys know I'm air frying. Unless I've shown the tray around before. Alright, so this is what the second batch looks like. We're gonna flip these around. And let these heat up for a few more minutes. I'm just following the packaging directions, which said 350. They said 350 for deep frying, but if 350 also works for air frying, it also works for air frying. Yeah, you could, Joker, you could. Anytime I hop in the kitchen is just pretty sporadic, and sometimes I announce it, sometimes I don't really announce it. I just hop in the kitchen whenever I feel like it, and plus it just takes some time to set up because I don't have the most professional setup like a lot of professional cooking streams out there. And that's understandable, Joker. You're on the hustle. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, we're still cool, Joker. Like, I'm not gonna be mad that somebody has to work or just living their life. I would just prefer someone to be upfront and honest to me about that, rather than keeping me in the dark and just letting me know that things are just not cool in real life right now. Even though I know a lot of people's lives are pretty privy. Because the last thing I want to do is for me to assume that something bad is going on, and I don't really want to assume how people's lives are. Just like I hate it if I assume someone's identity and I just bite myself in the back later, or like using the wrong pronouns or something. And I totally feel you. I've had that life before. I totally understand that. Alright, so the second batch just has 1 more minute. And to any fellow Asian Americans who might be lurking, who might be around, Happy Asian American Pacific Islander Month. We'd probably just have a bunch of different countries right now. We had the Korean-inspired wings. We got Japanese beer. We got spring roll wrappers inspired by a Filipino recipe. We are going continental. We're gonna take these first batch and just heat them up for maybe like about 1 or 2 more minutes to give them additional color. Because apparently getting an egg wash on the second batch really works out well in their favor. Where can I find the recipe? This is actually my own recipe that I'm using. Do you have an air fryer, Joker? Because everybody's air fryer is different. And this beer is Orion beer, if you're curious about it. There's a bunch of different beer brands that are pretty good, and this is not really so bad, actually. I'm kind of a beer connoisseur. Another beer brand I do like, although it's more on the pricier side, I've had in college was Guinness beer, actually. Guinness is actually one of my favorites. I think the most mediocre beer I've had is, I think, America's beer. It tasted kind of flat in comparison to the other beers I've had. I don't know, so it's hard to describe it. All I could describe is that it's really, really, really it's kind of flatter because of how cheap it is. What is your idea of wine for cooking? That's a good question, Kiba. I would go with I'm usually a fan of red wine in cooking, But if you don't really want a harsh flavor profile because of how tart grapes are when they're made into wine, you could go for white wine because white wine has a sweeter flavor profile. This YouTuber named Adam Ragusia, he's a very big fan of white wine. So if you want to use white wine, just be sure to use white wine in your cooking instead of red wine. It's fine that way. Yeah, this beer is Orion beer. I think it's I think another Japanese beer I've drank it before was like Sapporo beer. Yeah, Sapporo. Sapporo. I'm more of a fan of beer than I am a fan of like other alcohol. I guess because of how fizzy it is and carbonated. Although I know there's sparkling wine, but it's hard for me to actually taste flavor out of wine than it is out of beer for some reason. I have no idea why, but it's probably because I need to have like a cheese sampling with wine. Although I kind of can distinguish wine when I'm cooking with it. If you guys want to see how much of a difference egg wash can make, let me just show you the result of one. Like this one, for example. This is an egg wash is really, really good for presentation purposes, for baking and air frying. Actually, now that I notice it now. So yeah, pineapple rolls, first attempt. Again, today's recipes are mostly experimental, so. If I do find it successful, I'll be sure to write up the directions for that. Oh, it's dessert, Joker. It's pineapple. It's brown sugar pineapple. Asians nowadays are like a really huge fan of brown sugar, a lot of stuff. Because ever since, whenever there's like a food trend somewhere in Asia, a lot of like Asians just hop on the bandwagon and do stuff. Right now, it's Taiwan's like brown sugar boba latte. Before milk tea became like really saturated in Asian food culture. And also I got inspired by that one restaurant I had in New Jersey when I used to live in New Jersey. They made these pineapple rolls as an appetizer / dessert, something on the menu before you have a meal or something like that. And I haven't had one in a long time, so here we are with a plate of these things. So, while we're at it, let's go ahead and cut one open so we can look at the cross section of this thing. If we're good on the, yeah. All right, let's cut one open. Actually, let's do this one considering this one has like cooled down a little bit more. It's not much, it's just pineapple. It's just brown sugar marinated pineapple overnight. I mean, what can I say? If you like put some caramel or serve this up with some ice cream, it's just fine and dandy. There's not much more to it. It's candied pineapple in a roll. The typical like Filipino recipe of a turon is that they would take the wrapper and they would like coat it with some caramel and whatnot. So I think if this thing is like paired up with another source of flavor, then it would actually be not so shabby actually. It tastes like kind of a bit plain, but for presentation purposes it looks really good. I definitely would like pair this with some, actually, let's do that. Last time I baked a brownie, we actually paired it up with some ice cream to see if it holds well with ice cream. Let's do the ice cream test with this thing. So we're gonna cut one open and then actually. Except for cake, I think for every dry dessert I always have to do the ice cream test. All right, so let's go ahead and take one piece here, pair it up with some vanilla. Oh yeah, definitely works with ice cream, really well, really freaking well. I like pairing like a lot of desserts that I make with ice cream. I honestly think that ice cream is meant to be paired with a lot of different desserts pretty well. Well, I think my main exception would be cheesecake, because cheesecake is in its own league, as well as some pie. Overall, I would think that I had a little bit more faith in these rolls turning out really well. I'm glad I had faith, because not only do they look really good in presentation, they're absolutely let me also make sure the focus is decent, because sometimes my camera's focus is very weird sometimes. I would say in terms of presentation, our recipes today have came out really well. These were the Korean inspired wings that we heated up earlier. I had one of the sweet and spicy wings, and I think the flavor profile of the sauce that I made was really hands down better than the chicken's coating that I made with the chicken. So overall, I guess I can make a decent I know how to make a Korean fried chicken sauce now, and had a bit of decent practice with making some rolls today. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have ice cream, honestly, even if it's really stupidly addicting. I'm gonna try to see how it isn't dipped. It kind of reminds me of having what is it, Japanese fried ice cream. Okay, I need to go ahead and rehydrate. And people have been waiting for the next Stream Raiders battle, so I'm going to go ahead and get that started. And so let me go ahead and switch to the battle scene real quick, so I can move on with the battle, and it should be an easy one too. And yeah, Joker, but life is life, and the pandemic right now is causing everybody to live in very difficult conditions. So we'll see what happens, because I know a lot of homies that I speak to on the internet are moving, and I'm currently got moving plans as well. So I think at some point in time I will revisit this recipe, maybe at an environment where I can safely like try the recipe again and deep fry the wings, which I'm sure will actually come out a lot better than air frying them. Rolls, spring roll wrapper stuff is definitely a lot better at being handled in the air fryer than your own homemade tempura, because it's very specific to certain air fryers. Let's go ahead and switch over to Stream Raiders in the meantime, and let me show you what Stream Raiders about. is about Joker as soon as I switch over, and I'll probably switch over to Genshin Impact a little bit, or probably gonna hop onto YouTube in a bit. 1 second, folks. Let me get the battle started.